welcome to Inside Broadway's Career in Theater series. My name is Steingold. I was in Beetlejuice The Musical, and I played the Girl Scout, and you might recognize me from my career series video last December, I believe it was. So I'm here with a very special friend of mine today. He is a super important part of a Broadway show, specifically Beetlejuice, on the creative team. He's also my friend, and we're going to learn how he got started in the business, and he's going to demonstrate some super exciting things for us today. So please welcome my friend and prop expert, Austin Rodriguez.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So you're going to tell us about your amazing career and the super interesting things that you do in your line of work.
Yep.
But first, I'm pretty sure that most of us in the audience have one question. What is a prop?
That is always the great question that we're always trying to answer in my business. A prop is pretty much anything an actor handles, touches, moves, sits on, looks at, holds. It's set dressing. We deal with all the furniture. We deal with any puppets in the show, like in Beetlejuice. We're responsible for all the puppets in the show. So we do so many different things. And in Broadway theater, we're responsible for loading in the band equipment. We are responsible for loading in all the wardrobe boxes. So our duties run a gambit. So it's always an interesting day when you go into work because you never know what you're going to do.
Yeah, you guys kind of touch a little bit of everything.
Yeah. We're all over the place.
Yes. So I think the next question is, can you explain if props are made or are they bought or is it a combination?
Yeah, it's a combination. It depends on what kind of show you're doing. If you're doing a play that's set in the modern day, you're going to buy most of the stuff that you are going to use. But if you're doing a show like Beetlejuice, you're going to make a lot of stuff. So it all kind of depends on what the show's needs are. But more creative, crazy shows, or if you need to build a piece of furniture that needs to fit exactly into this space for an actor to do a backflip off of, you have to make sure it's safe, you have to make sure it's strong enough, you have to make sure every piece of furniture is tap danceable, because you never know when a choreographer is going to want to do that.
That is awesome, and we're going to learn more about props and a lot of the props that Austin's built later, but first, I want to learn a little bit more about you. So, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan, on the west side.
I'm also from Michigan, so this is just a little trivia
Yeah.
for you if you're ever asked where Dana Steingold and Austin Rodriguez are from.
Yeah, Michiganders.
Michiganders, through and through. And were you interested in theater growing up?
Yes, very. I was obsessed with theater growing up. I started going to the local community theater when I was 9 and taking acting classes in their programs. So I've always been theater obsessed.
So how did you make the transition from being theater obsessed to being a prop person? Were you creative as a kid?
I grew up in a creative world. My mom works in leather and she sells it at art shows. So I grew up around painters and potters, and I grew up at Renaissance festivals with jugglers and sword swallowers, and so I've always been around theatrical, crazy, amazing people.
That's so awesome. And Inside Broadway students are really lucky because they live in New York City, so Times Square and Broadway are basically their backyard and they have access to so much theater. Growing up in a smaller town, was there a lot of theater in Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids actually is an amazing theater town. We have 7 community theaters. We have an opera company, we have a ballet company, we have 2 different art museums. We hold the world's largest art competition, usually every fall, called Art Prize. So growing up there was actually just a great place to grow up because there's so much theater and there's so much community around the arts. So it gave me a lot of opportunities starting out.
So did you do school, did you do theater in school as well?
I did throughout school, middle school, high school, I did all of those productions. I was actually in a special program at my high school, a training program basically. So I would do core classes during the morning, and then I would drive to a different school in the afternoon and I would do technical theater for the rest of the day, and then my after-school job was working shows in that theater. So I did a lot of theater. But all the shows at my high school, it was always a big influence for me as well. And then going to the Southern Theater and building all of their shows as well was a great experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that we're talking about school, because obviously that's like a super interesting thing right now that's happening in the world. Some people are learning from home, some people are learning in the classroom. So still, teachers are really working extremely hard, whether they're physically present or working from afar. But do you have a teacher that really, either inspired you or that you really connected with, that you still think about?
Yeah, I have a lot of teachers. I mean, I even find teachers like nowadays too. Like, I never stop learning is a big thing. But growing up, my high school drama teacher, Miss Kerr, was like, she really lit the fire under me to like keep going. And then all of my technical theater teachers were always very encouraging. And then the community theater I was a part of, the prop people, Barb Parseca, she was amazing at giving me that confidence boost of, you can keep going. Just because you miscut something doesn't mean it's all ruined. You can always find a workaround, and you can always make it work, which I think we do a lot in theaters. We have to make problems go away.
Yeah, I find I think about things that my teachers told me when I was younger, and I still think about them now as an adult, in both like life and business. It's just amazing how that stuff stays with us.
Yeah, 100%.
You're so impressionable
Yes.
as a kid.
Even now, there's still people that I run into, and they're like, "Have you ever thought about doing it like this?" And I was like, "No, I've never in my entire life have thought about that." So you can never stop learning, really. But there's so many teachers out there in the world.
Yeah, and so what made you sort of transition from school to a career in theater?
I was also really big into the culinary arts as well, and so I had to make a decision what was going to be my job. And I basically didn't want cooking dinner every night to feel like work, so I moved to theater. But it's always been a passion ever since I was little. I've always been building crazy things or doing crazy things, anything mechanical, anything I can figure out. Cardboard was my favorite medium as a child, because my mom would always have so many boxes downstairs. I could cut them up. I've made giant dragon puppets and insane things as a child. So it just has always been a passion. So my transition was like, I got out of high school and I had so many opportunities through the community theaters I was working with and my local theatrical union that I'm a part of. I got together and I worked shows and I did load-ins and load-outs of concerts, and it's always will stick with me, but that was kind of my transition. I just kept working and working and working. And anybody that wanted me to work on a project or show or build a piece of furniture, I always said yes. I never said no. I always figured it out, because every job you do is a learning experience.
Yeah, that's such a good lesson, actually. I say that all the time, to just say yes to things, because you never know what opportunity will come from it or what you'll learn or take away, and I think that's like super
valuable. Or who
valuable.
you will meet that could, then call you a different day and be like, hey, I need something.
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor? Yes, 100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I think probably a lot of students are wondering, who might be interested in props, are there certain character traits that you think you need to have to go into this sort of line of work?
There are basically the main character traits. You have to be very organized, because props is all the small things, all the detail things. So on any given show, Beetlejuice, there are so many props that have to be in so many different places. So you just have to be very organized on how everything is laid out and how everybody knows where everything is going to be to make a show run smoothly. So I think organization is one of those main traits. Thinking outside of the box is a big trait, and because I'm asked to build different things that don't exist in the real world. So I have to, a designer will sketch something and I will have to break it down to its basic shapes, and sometimes I'll go through a dollar store and be like, wait, that's the perfect shape of what I need for this piece of a prop. Or, you know, I'll go through hardware stores and be like, I've never seen this kind of knob before, this will look great over here. So just kind of having the ability to break down visually into small parts is another trait in props. But organization, thinking outside of the box, and also a relaxed attitude. We're all in a, you know, theater can feel like a high stress situation. We're all trying to put on the best show possible. So sometimes being able to take a deep breath and not get too stressed about it is always a great trait, because, you know, things are gonna go wrong and it's how you react to it. And, you know, that's something I try to teach my little son a lot. Like, we just have to take a deep breath and we'll figure out how to problem solve things.
Yeah, we're kind of doing that right now. We're all pivoting and figuring out how to learn virtually, and you know, it's crazy, and not seeing our friends all the time. So we're all sort of, everything you've talked about is very apropos to just being a student right now, I think. Additionally, you've traveled all over the country doing different shows. Tell us a little bit about the shows you've worked on. What was your job in those shows, and maybe, you know, what it was like to travel. Was that fun?
Yeah, I was on the road with different Broadway shows for about 10 years. So I traveled solidly throughout the country and Canada with Chicago the Musical, La Cage aux Folles the Musical, Flashdance the Musical, that great hit.
Oh.
Phantom of the Opera I did for 3 years, and that's where I met my wife. And we actually got married on the day off, on the Monday off, while we were in San Antonio, Texas, and then everybody had to be back at the show on Tuesday.
It's wild.
Yeah. And I did one of my favorite musicals to work on was Young Frankenstein the musical, the Mel Brooks musical. I toured that for 2 years, and our cast and crew were such a huge family. Like, it was the most fun. One of our actors had a little 2-year-old son, so we got to go to every zoo in the country, and we got to go to every amusement park because we had an excuse to go.
To behave like a kid.
Yeah, exactly. We bought all the cool toys.
Yeah, I would imagine Young Frankenstein, kind of like Beetlejuice, is just full of fun and silly people having a great time with each other.
Exactly, yeah. Just weird, fun people that just, you know, like to travel the country together, and we just had a blast. So, yeah, and I tour, and going and touring is a lot of work. It is a lot of fun, but it is a lot of work because you are away from home for a year, basically, without really going home a lot. So it is hard to tour and still be close to your family. Technology today makes it so much easier than when I started touring, where you only really had a cell phone and you could call people and text people. But I wouldn't give it for the world. I loved it. It was so much fun.
Did you move to New York City prior to the tours you did, or did that come sort of later in life?
No, the moving to New York City happened after my touring career. Basically, I got to Phantom of the Opera, and I heard for years, Phantom of the Opera, when you get to Phantom of the Opera, that's the echelon of touring, like, welcome. So I got there, and then I was like, now what? And I was like, well, I need a new challenge. And I came to New York, and I was like, let's see what trying to live in New York is like, because I've always loved New York City. Anytime I would do a tour show, we rehearsed in New York, so I spent a lot of time in New York. So it always felt like home. So I decided to make it my home, and then I started working.
That's so awesome. So on Beetlejuice, Austin was the head of props, but obviously there are different positions within sort of like the prop sector of our show. Can you talk about some of those positions that you might have?
Yes, there are a lot of different people that are involved in props to make props what they are. There is the prop master, or the head of props on a show. and they're responsible for making sure that the maintaining of the show, the running of the show is consistent, that it's running smoothly. You have the production prop person who is basically next to the designer, the set designer, organizing, shopping, deciding what shops can build certain pieces, helping with all of the magic of the show. And then you have the builders and the artisans in the shop, which is another thing I do on a side job. Is I work in a shop and I build props for different shows. I may not be on the show, but I will build a prop for a show, and those are some of the most amazing people because they can do so many crazy things with household items and like floor mats, and they can carve them into such beautiful things. And but there's so many different sectors of that. You don't just have to be on a Broadway show. You can work in a shop. I have so many friends that are just such talented painters and craftsmen, which it's exciting to be around.
So one of the things I think a lot of people don't know about the entertainment business and theater is that we're all union members. I'm a proud member of the Actors Equity Association and the Screen Actors Guild, and can you tell me a little bit about the union you belong to?
Yeah, I am a part of IATSE, which is the stagehand unions, the theater unions. They primarily work in all theater, film, TV, projection. We're everywhere, and there are certain different locals and unions, subsections of those unions for certain things. There's a scenic painters union, there's a scenic designer union, all under IATSE. And the union is so important to, as artists, to protect us and to protect not only just what we get paid and the conditions. The safety is a big factor. So growing up and starting in the union when I was 18 and I could sign up and start to do load-ins, load-outs, concerts, starting that way was a huge help, because there are so many people that have been doing our industry for so long. It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to lean on those people to teach you the ropes and how to act and how we do things safely and how we can all make a show go, basically. So I couldn't do it without my union, because they've helped me so much. Education-wise, there's so much education that our union does, that you can take classes to learn different things and to further your career. So the union is so important.
Yeah, and honestly, I just learned a little something, because Austin was saying he signed up for the union, and as an actor, you have to be invited into the union when you are invited into a union production, but it sounds like you can apply to be a part of the union.
Well, you can apply to start to work. It's a referral list. You're not a union member at that point. It's the same way. The longer you work for the union in that capacity, for Local 1, you have to make a certain amount of money a year in that referral, and then you can get voted into the union.
Voted?
Yes, you get voted. So when I started working in my local union in West Michigan, Local 26, I worked for 3 years working for them, contributing to the union, and then I got a job offer for Chicago the Musical, the tour of Chicago, which I needed my union card, and I went to my union. Since I've worked for them, they voted me in, and now I've been a proud union member for 12 years. I think I'm going on 12 years, yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
It really is so cool, because I had no idea. So another thing I wanted to chat about is the prop department is just one of the many departments that exist at a Broadway show. So many people have to come together to make a show happen each night. What other departments are there, and how important is the communication between their departments and your department?
There are so many departments. The main heading departments are and the technical side are wardrobe, hair, carpentry, sound, lighting, props, of course. And those are like the main technical ones. I'm trying to think if I forgot one. No, I think we're all good. Oh, there's like projection now. That's a new, we're starting to get more into, as more technology, there will be like a projection side, but that usually falls under lighting. There's so many jobs, but the communication is like key, because as theater, with the actors and the directors and the designers, it's all a collaboration. Like theater is a collaboration, film is a collaboration. So without communication, that breaks down. If a set designer designs something and an actor can't actually fit through it, or something that was built, they designed to fit through it, doesn't fit through it, it won't work. Or if an actor can't actually climb into something or fit into something, then that won't work either. So it's all about talking about, and even in the shop when we're building things, we will send progress photos to designers to be like, is this what you want? Is this what you're liking? Do we need to make this bigger? I think this is too big. Do you want to come look at this, or do you want to see this? So communication is key throughout. And that goes for communicating with company management and communicating with stage management, so that everybody needs to be on the same page to make a show run smoothly, because it's all about collaboration and safety, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been kind of skirting the issue, but we've talked about Beetlejuice for a second. But let's really come full circle to discuss our favorite show, Beetlejuice.
Yes.
This was such a unique show to be a part of, I'm sure for you as well, because there were a lot of interesting props. What was your experience like? Do you have a favorite prop that you built for it?
My experience, it was the most fun I have ever had, I think.
Me too.
Since I started, first off, I was a huge fan of the movie as a kid, so then to see a sandworm in real life, you're like, that's it, that's a sandworm.
It's great.
And then to get to climb in that sandworm and make it work, and be the puppeteer in the sandworm, and you get to be a sandworm eight nights a week.
Yeah, this is like a little piece of trivia that I think Beetlejuice fans might not know. The sandworm was actually operated by Austin getting inside of it, and also there's a giant head, Beetlejuice head puppet.
Yeah, we
up.
call it the dinner guest. It's at the end of Act 1, a big head that would come out of the pit and move and talk. I was actually strapped to that head. And in Beetlejuice, we had two sandworms. We had Big Sandy, who I operated, and we had Little Sally, who my assistant Vince operated. But Big Sandy is the one Alex Brightman rode in on, and he was on top, and I was inside this big frame, and I had maybe a foot square to walk in, and I could see only the floor, and it was completely feel by feel. And then they added smoke and turned off all the lights, and it was like, make it out on stage.
Yeah.
And so
Beetlejuice is a very unique show and a very unique experience for a lot of us. And I think one of the challenges of a show that big also is maintaining it 8 times a week. So, because I know I certainly had props that broke, or meaning not because they were poorly made, because I dropped it or something
I don't know. You would never do that.
I don't know. I had a big backpack that Austin built, I think, and and it would occasionally, the glue will come loose just because it takes wear and tear every night. So what is it like to have to fix things and recreate new versions?
It's a lot of work, because it's a lot of detail, because you're really focused on running a show every night. But when you get to the theater every day, you want to kind of look over every piece to make sure that it's clean and safe enough to go out on stage. And then traditionally on shows you get what we call work calls. So it's 3 hours in the morning before the 2-show Wednesday a lot of times, and we come in and we repair, we repaint, we fix. A thing that a lot of people don't know is prop people are also responsible once the show opens. We're also responsible for all the scenic paint in the show. So if a wall needs to be touched up, that's not a carpenter, that they come to props. So we're the keeper of all the paints and craft supplies. And we also have lots of different glues, adhesives, tapes, because sometimes in the middle of the show something breaks, or right before it goes out it breaks. So you have to know what you can glue it together with quickly that will A, not damage it when you have to really fix it later, or B, dry before an actor puts it in hand, so it doesn't stick to their hand.
You're like a prop surgeon.
Yeah, sometimes. Prop surgery, touch up, creating, just making sure that the magic stays the magic for every audience that comes into the theater is really what we do. But yeah, it's fun. A lot of glue. Hands down, so much glue.
And did you have a favorite moment in Beetlejuice or a favorite prop?
I mean, I will have to say sandworms, hand down, favorite prop. Favorite moment, I feel like sandworms are an awesome moment. Another favorite moment of mine is at the top of the show, during the opening number, there are a bunch of ukuleles get tossed up to Beetlejuice, and he breaks them and he throws them down in the pit, and another one pops up. So that's all done with me just throwing them. So that was always a nerve-wracking and fun experience, because you have to throw it to Beetlejuice correctly for him to catch it. And luckily Alex Brightman is one of the best catches out there. And do it in time with the music and do it on cue, but you get to start the show in the pit when the show starts and the audience starts clapping, and it's just like a cool experience, just like everybody gets super excited.
Yeah, that's my favorite moment.
Yeah.
Is like the first moment before the show, because as the show gained in popularity, the louder the audience would become, and it was just so exciting.
Yes.
That energy, I think, is what I miss most about theater right now.
Yeah,
it's
just
that thing.
There's a special magic when the audience just explodes in cheering before anybody's even hit the stage yet. Just the lights
Yes.
going out and them going wild. You're like, this is cool.
It's so cool, and you are such a huge part of making the magic happen and
Yeah.
making it feel magical.
Yeah.
So it's really fun, I think, for everybody backstage. That is, and I think Beetlejuice specifically, everybody got equally excited. Stage managers,
We had the most
everybody.
fun off stage as well as on stage.
We did.
We played a lot of games before shows. There was always like the fan art in the halls were always a good pumping up. I got to have a special moment with Dana every night.
Yes, we did. We talked about puppets, but there's actually a giant puppet, pig puppet in one scene that I operated, and to do so I had to get inside of a box that was built for me to fit inside of.
Pretty much only for her.
Only for me. And Austin was in charge of putting me inside of it every single night and re-stringing the puppet to make sure that everything like kind of went off without a hitch.
Yeah.
And it was like being a magician's assistant inside of that.
She was crammed into this box.
It really
She
was.
was like,
It
it
was
was
a tight
like,
space.
yay tall. You would look at it and be like, people can't fit in there. And Dana would fit.
But I can.
Yeah.
And we had we called them the pig cart symposiums, where
Yes.
we would have to get together to rediscuss, something and adjust it so you could be slightly more comfortable inside said box.
Yes.
And Austin was great at handling all of that. And also some other trivia, Austin was the Girl Scout for Halloween and built my
Yes.
entire costume from scratch. It is identical, and rebuilt all the props that he built for my track as well, and has it all.
So I had everything. I actually snuck up to wardrobe and looked in the costume Bible to find where they bought the fabric to make her costume, and I had to make it. And then I ran the whole show in that costume that night.
It's true.
I was in a sandworm as a schoolgirl. I was dinner guest. I put a huge black hoodie over me so you couldn't see it. But every moment off stage, anytime I'd see Dana,
just wave at me. So what we're telling you is, if you want to excel at Halloween, go into props.
Yeah, go into props. We always it's wardrobe and props around Halloween. People come to you like, do you have this? Or like, do you have a box of these at the shop or anything like that? Or do you have any monocles or crazy things? Like, we always get asked for that.
So a really sad day at Beetlejuice was when you left, because Austin is so talented that he was brought over to another show. Do you want to talk about what show that is and what you're doing on that?
Yeah, I'm the head props again for the new version of Company, the musical, at the Jacobs. And before shutdown, we shut down a week before opening, so we were so close. But I did the same job, a little bit different, no sandworm puppets. We had a lot of magical cakes that lit up that I built. I built a lot of like cakes that would extinguish their flames by themselves. We had giant blow up balloon letters, lots of mixing different liquids to make it look like coffee or anything like that, but usually with food coloring because nobody wants to have to sing a song after drinking coffee, usually. But yes, such a beautiful musical and also a completely different challenge. Just backstage, a lot of moving parts and pieces. The choreography is so tight. Some of the scene changes behind the scenes we were like stopwatch, and we had to like practice them because it had to be so quick to try to get this transition moving correctly. You know, not as much sandworm action, but still a lot of action backstage.
I can't wait to see it when Broadway comes back.
Oh, I can't wait to be there with Broadway.
I know, me too. I said I'm going to be in a theater. If I'm not on a stage, I will be in a theater weeping probably through the entire thing. Just so happy to be in a space with other people.
I think
performing.
you and me both. We'll both be weeping. I'll be backstage weeping. You'll be in the audience weeping. It'll just be so exciting to be back because theater is like a big family. Like we all feel like family. Even Broadway, as big as it is, like you know so many people because we all feel like family. So when you're like, I get to see my family again, it's really lovely.
And this has been obviously a challenging time for everybody, students, people in our industry. What have you been doing to stay positive, and what have you been working on?
Lots of things. So we have a shop in Brooklyn that is shut down for building anything theatrical. So we took this time to clean the shop because the shop gets really dirty because there's so many Broadway shows going in and out of that shop because there are 4 prop people that work out of that shop. So there's always stuff to do. And I'm getting to hang out with my son, which is the most playtime. And he comes to the shop and he has his own little work tools, plastic tools, and he gets to play around in the shop. And then I've also been doing, lately, I just got the opportunity to do some install scenic-wise for Legoland, for a ride on Legoland. So,
whoa.
Yeah, I'm doing some crafty things for one of the rides at Legoland. So that's
really
keeping up
cool.
my time a little bit. But for the most part, just spending time with people that I don't get to spend time with, you know, because as theater is your family, you get to see your theater family more than your real family.
That is true. That is the sacrifice for sure. Austin, thank you so much for sharing your story and telling us about your amazing career. Now we're going to do something super fun that we can all do together. Austin is going to show us some props, and we may or may not be building some.
Maybe.
Maybe. Stay tuned.